It's all about baseball for tonight. On tonight's episode, we are less than 24 hours away from the 2025 World Series. The Los Angeles Dodgers will be heading to Toronto to face the Blue Jays. We will be asking the panel's thoughts on their favorite teams, specifically the New York Yankees and the New York Mets. And since we are talking World Series, is this an opportunity for Kendrick Lamar and Drake to renew their hostility? This is Voice of the Fans Canada.
You are listening to Voice of the Fans Sportscast, brought to you by none other than the voices of the fans.
Oh, Canada.
This is Thursday, the 23rd of October. I'm Randy Kure with another edition of Voice of the Fans Canada. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. Do me a favor, hit the like or subscribe button to your respective social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, YouTube, at VOF Canada. The Roundtable has assembled for this very special edition of Voice of the Fans Canada. Neel Katarey, like yours truly, is wearing his Blue Jays gear with pride. Neel, you getting ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready. Ready as always, Randy. Born ready. Born ready.
You're born ready. Very Vladimir Guerrero of you. He was really in tune with the playoffs throughout. Send a small congratulations to me on our respective Discord channel. Here once again for the, second time in 8 days. Jay Cardinale, what's going on?
I'm back once again. Glad to be back and can't wait to talk about a lot of things, especially our first topic.
Yeah, absolutely. That first topic, which is not baseball related. And speaking of sending his congratulations, as I was a couple of drinks in when the Blue Jays secured the pennant, this guy called me for the very first time, I believe. And
I did.
And, it was very typical of him to be very joyous for when the Jays made the World Series, really cherishing my excitement for it. He is a dear friend. He is Matt Siriani. Matty, you're a beautiful man. How's it going?
Thank you very much. And I can tell I'm a beautiful man. I got my hair cut. I had hair all the way down to my ear, and I got it cut recently. How'd it get done?
Yeah, no, you look fantastic. No, fellas, thank you so much. As always. However, this is a baseball-heavy episode, but we are going to be talking about some breaking news that took place with a number of arrests in the NBA community for alleged gambling allegations. The winds have been circling for a number of months regarding the NBA and betting fixing allegations. Jonte Porter of the Toronto Raptors was the first domino to fall, being banned from the NBA. And today it was announced that Terry Rozier and Damon Jones were implicated. Rozier has been implicated for a number of months. But along with these allegations is Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups. Guys, I have read a couple of stories here and there. Floor's open. Your thoughts to this whole thing? And I'm assuming that we really haven't seen the last of arrests to be made.
All right.
It's crazy.
It's nuts. So let me just start off this whole thing by saying gambling has evolved over the years. We've seen athletes and coaches and politicians promote the sport. On the NBA scandal of things, what did you think was going to happen when players and coaches and politicians are promoting gambling? They're going to want to participate and play what they're promoting. That's what happened with the NBA, and it's not the first time we've seen this story happen. In fact, since 2019, we've seen a number of players across multiple sports get arrested or banned or punished for gambling on the sport that they play in. Now, in the Terry Rozier case, this was all kinds of messed up. Why? Because he intentionally underperformed to win bets, especially prop bets on himself. The most disturbing one was the game where he took himself out after 9 minutes just to hit a bet that he placed on himself, and his buddies counted the cash. Now, the NBA, I've said this before, the inmates run the asylum. Players are sitting out a game. Players are controlling when they go in and out. Players are controlling what teams they're going to go on, when they're going to be traded. Coaches and owners really have no say, but this is just a case of what happens when the inmates run the asylum too much, where players are gambling on themselves, gambling on other teams, getting sources from outsiders to bet on what they think is right to earn some extra dough outside of the sport that they play in. Now, this to me screams bad news for the NBA. And Adam Silver, who is probably
I don't think it's just the NBA, Matty.
Oh, it's
I think it's all
but the NBA is right now is at the center of all this.
Sure.
But Adam Silver is facing a tidal wave right now because this is the last thing the NBA needed when the season tips off. Boom. And I can get into the poker allegations a little bit, but I want to open the floor to Jake and Neel first about the NBA stuff of it all. Because the poker thing I can get into for hours.
This is what I would say. Look, in the case of Terry Rozier, okay, maybe this guy is a knucklehead. Maybe, you can take the guy out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the guy. That sort of old thing. I don't want to apply it, but it may apply in this situation. But look, this is akin to me. I was thinking about it. This is like Terry Rozier hitting the Powerball and then next week going and robbing an antique store. You just won the Powerball. You make $30 million a year. Why are you conspiring with some, shady colleague of yours and counting $100K in cash in your house? Like there's so many questions I have about not like just the motivation behind why a guy of his stature, maybe he, who knows, but it takes a certain degree of like deep disrespect for the game that you play, the craft that you are, the professional that you're supposed to be. This is probably the worst thing that one could do. And I mean, you look at Pete Rose, the guy had one of the greatest careers of all time in history of baseball. And he's an afterthought for the most part because of this gambling stuff that he's done. Just like Barry Bonds, it's a shame that he also potentially could have at one point said, I'm the greatest player of all time. But his whole thing with steroids and stuff, it's not the same. But it's just none of these guys are Hall of Famers. That's where it comes to Chauncey Billups, because Chauncey Billups was one of my favorite players. His whole run with Pistons, I loved watching him and those Piston teams, man. The Bad Boys 2.0 and that championship again over LA was one of my favorite underdog winner championship. In fact, when the Raptors beat Golden State, we were often compared to that Detroit team for how we were an underdog to a super team and how we had a defensive identity and all that sort of stuff. But even for him, I mean, it's a shame. And again, I'm not sure what he did when it comes to the game of basketball, because I've only read his name in relation to the poker stuff, but I'm sure there was. And my last thought is,
we don't know. We don't know. Yeah, but I mean, yeah.
To talk about, like, just to expand on like what Matt said, like, I mean, there's got to be more termites in the woodwork, if you get my meaning. There's got to be more termites in the woodwork. You caught a couple coming on the surface. Maybe they weren't careful. Dummies counting cash in their apartment. But you never know. And I think the problem is that you watch these games, and now you can go on YouTube and you can find all these like blooper Terry Rozier videos where like you can watch them play, whether he was actually throwing the game or throwing the play or throwing this ridiculously stupid turnover on purpose. I mean, now you can question every single thing he's done in the NBA. And, look at other sports as well. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about baseball today. Now, look, baseball, every sport, you got a orchard full of great apples, and then there's always a few rotten ones. Just in every sport, these things exist. How hard would it be for a guy to ensure that he does not get a hit at 4 at-bats in a game when his 1 hit plus prop is maybe 1.4 or plus, or minus 200 in American terms? It'd be very easy to potentially just whiff, or take strikes, do things that maybe you wouldn't do on a regular basis. Like, you could just see that sometimes in some of these scenarios, it's going to be very difficult. And the main concern I have is that as termites are found, Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, the termite, the other termites are going to learn how to embed themselves in the wood without coming onto the surface as much.
Yeah.
Jake, sorry, Jake. Just before you start, because Neel, a number of months ago, I asked you, Tony, and Dan about sports gambling. I told you I put a $2 bet down on FanDuel, and then I immediately cashed out the rest of my account because I just wasn't feeling it. And between the three of you, if I do make any bets, it's going to be the provincial lottery called Proline here in Ontario, and maybe I put a $5 down on a point spread, and that's pretty much all I do. I don't sports gambling doesn't really tickle my fancy. How about you guys, especially with the player props, like with the whole dynamic what Terry Rozier did with that one game in 23, he took himself out of the game and he underperformed and so on. Like, are those player props really appealing to you three if you do bet at all?
They have been in the past, and I don't do that these days. But in the past, yeah, especially when they had like FanDuel, the DFS in Toronto, I was actually would be on that
DFS
quite a bit with some friends. It'd be fun, like to share your lineups and see, and it's almost like you're making a fantasy team with a budget, but you're putting the wager on that. But they took that out of Ontario, and I'm thankful for it because now with all of this kind of this stuff, I'm just glad that's not available to me anymore. And but yeah, so in that sense, I kind of consider that player props because you're literally banking on these guys putting up stats of various formations.
Yeah.
And
so sorry to Jake to jump. Sorry, Maddie, do you gamble much? Or Jake?
Well,
you don't.
I don't gamble, but on Foursquare Sports, I do spread picks.
I do.
I don't do prop bets. But if you're talking to me like, do I gamble straight up? No, I don't gamble straight up.
Okay.
I've been advised by certain people, hey, you need to do some betting and some parlay picks and stuff like that, but I don't actually gamble.
Yeah. Okay. And Jake said that he doesn't gamble either. I mean, I actually, what was the comeback game Buffalo had? Who do they play again? Why am I blanking? It was a couple of weeks ago.
Ravens.
Yes, the Ravens. Thank you. A friend of mine, she had a $10 parlay down, and she actually won like $680. She hammered the parlay, and hey, you get one-off stories like that, awesome. But how many times are you losing hundreds of dollars and so on, thousands, even way more than that? Jake, sorry to jump in before your comment there. Your thoughts on this whole thing?
It's all good, but yeah, Neel and Matt and all you guys make good points about the NBA and the prop bets. NBA is like the one sport where that's kind of a thing because, like, if in another sport, like it's kind of hard. Like in the NBA, like if a guy knows his over under, like he's got to score 15 points and like no less than 20, he can kind of control that. Like once he gets to 17 points, he can like, all right, I get 1 3-pointer or like 3 free throws. I can miss all my other shots. Like in in other sports, it's kind of hard. Like in baseball, it's tougher for like maybe a pitcher to like not throw as many pitches once he literally fakes an injury kind of thing. So that's why, like Matt mentioned that this is only a matter of time, and he's right. This is only a matter of time. You look at ESPN. Every time you turn on ESPN, it's ESPN Bet is everywhere. It's advertised everywhere. Every commercial with sports betting. They're partners with all these sports betting sites. All the leagues are. ESPN specifically is probably the worst of it. Basketball, right now it's at the forefront. Where's the worst of it? I don't know. The NFL's pretty bad with that as well. But this was bound to happen. Neil's right. There's more is going to come out. There's probably more guys that are going to get caught. In the NFL, Calvin Ridley got suspended for a year a couple of years ago when he was sports gambling, and that wasn't even nearly as bad as this. I mean, nothing's as bad as this. We mentioned Jonte Porter at the top of this. He was on the Raptors. He was doing some shady stuff. I think he actually went to jail. So what he was doing was
certainly got banned. But
he got banned. I believe he went to jail. I'm not thinking a long sentence, but the guy's in jail. And now this happens. Tyler Rozier is the guy who makes 26.5, just over $1 million per season. That's his salary this year. And he was partaking in this. Chauncey Billups had a very nice NBA career. He won a
Hall of Fame career.
Hall of Famer, yeah.
Hall of Famer, NBA champion on that great 2004 Detroit team. And he's involved. Damon Jones played for a while. He was an assistant coach in the league. He was assistant coach on the Cleveland teams with LeBron and LeBron's second stint in Cleveland, which wasn't that long ago. He's no longer coaching. He was very involved. Apparently he was like he was getting information from LeBron James or something. So that's something to watch out for. So yeah, this is a very big scandal. I think this has the potential to be one of the biggest scandals in all sports that we've ever seen. I think this is bigger than the whole thing of Tim Donaghy and the ref rigging. I think it's even bigger than that. Because with the mafia is involved, the FBI is involved. By the way, seeing Taylor Rozier and Cash Patel's name in one sentence this morning, an ESPN notification, objectively hilarious. By the way, I just want to. He had to take a break. Stuff he's dealing with that guy.
I guess this particular segment, there's going to be a lot of speculation and a lot of questions that are going to pop up in each of our heads that we ask the floor. Here's the first one. If Chauncey Billups is implicated, found guilty, and so on, is he going to get booted from the Hall of Fame?
That's a good question because he did get inducted last year. He could. I've never seen Hall of Fame status be vacated before from any sport, but that could absolutely
in hockey there was.
I doubt it. Unless they prove that he did something while he was playing. Because look at O.J. Simpson; he's still in the Hall of Fame.
I was just gonna say that O.J. Simpson killed
well,
it was never proven, but if the glove don't fit,
look, Neel. I mean, let's call a spade, buddy.
He's a spade. He's a spade.
But hey, look, and obviously, hey, who knows? Maybe the time will come that O.J. Simpson will be removed. Maybe it'll take a new commissioner for him to do that. Maybe it'll take a big protest, a request from the Goldman family and the Brown family. With regards to this and the sensitivity and especially the money that all of these sports leagues have profited from, and now a Hall of Famer has done a naughty thing. I don't see him in the Hall of Fame.
It's integrity. It's a massive shot in integrity. It really is. And I know we've touched on this NBA thing. I would love to get into the poker thing of it all because that's the most shady stuff I've ever seen. But for the Chauncey Billups thing, like if your Hall of Fame character is diminished by a gambling scandal, I mean, look at what it did to Pete Rose. Pete Rose should be a Hall of Famer, but because he gambled, that now his status is not immortalized in Cooperstown anymore. So the same could absolutely happen with Chauncey Billups, where he maybe gets his status vacated. But as far as the poker thing, which I kind of want to get into, I'm sorry if I'm Randy, if I'm going there a little bit. But I've never.
Well, actually, Maddie, if you want to hold tight about the poker thing, and then we could get into the poker thing after, because Neil, Jake, I don't know what your
Sure.
Neil said that you don't believe Billups will be removed from Hall of Fame, but because this is gambling, something that each of those sports leagues profited from so much, I don't see. I would think that these leagues want to have like a crystal clear image, especially when it comes to gambling. What do you think?
Yeah, it's like a catch-22 because they want that crystal clear image, and yet they're the ones setting the table for it to be dirtied. By choosing, this is what greed does to you, is that you set yourself up for impurities. And this could be said from the lowest level person to the highest level league in the world, a multi-billion-dollar league, because, look, they got into bed with Vegas. The NBA and professional sports got into bed with Vegas. That's why every second commercial you see is some book trying to, give you a promo. And it wasn't like this a few years ago. Times change very quickly, and this is a massive change that all has tied into them getting these record-breaking new deals despite ratings going down. That make sense, And this is the biggest reason for it, is because you're drawing fans in an impure fashion. And again, the thing is, the problem I have is that when you put yourself in bed with Vegas, everyone's going to look to cash in, but the NBA is the biggest one doing that. They're the ones that are setting this table open, and they know exactly what they're doing. They've probably done hundreds of studies showing the downstream effects of this type of decision, and they chose the money. Why? Because the owners vote on it, and the owners don't give a damn what the common man does. They give a fuck. They give a damn about their pocketbook. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And so yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
Okay. Jake, I don't know if you have any additional comments specific with Billups. As Maddie was saying, there is a whole thing about poker games that we're going to get into in a moment as well. But do you think, off the top, if you had to take a guess right now, Billups getting removed from the Hall of Fame?
I don't think he will. Similar to what Neil said, unless they can I forget exactly when he stopped playing. I know he's been the coach at Bournemouth for 4 or 5 years. I think there was a little bit of time between when he retired because he worked for ESPN for a little bit.
Broadcasting, yeah.
He went to broadcasting and then he coached. So unless they could link it to his playing days, I don't think he'd be removed because it's like, he was he was a coach when he committed the crimes. Unless more details come out and it's just so bad that it's like we can't have a person like this in our Hall of Fame. But yeah, I do not think he will be removed.
Can I add just a quick thing here? If the NBA probes and they find, or somehow they are able to find evidence of, major stars doing this sort of activity,
Michael Jordan's a big gambler. Michael Jordan's a big gambler.
Imagine that, right? And there are rumors that he had to retire after the first three-peat because of mafia-related gambling issues. And there's also some rumors, and I pray to God these aren't founded, but I've read things that what happened to his father may be also related. Now I don't know that for a fact, but when you add things all together, the speculation, it doesn't just just go away.
It's so funny. It's so funny you brought this up, Neel, because before we went to air, Maddie joined the call first, and that's exactly what he brought up. The comments that you just made. So,
but here's the question I have, though: if the NBA was privy to that, would they want that information coming out? And I think that they would do at least what they could legally or kind of through shady means try to suppress that.
Well, I mean, yeah, would they want it? Absolutely not. Are they going to have a choice in it getting leaked? I mean, the U.S. president always seems to have an axe to grind, and then when it comes to the NBA, I think respectfully to our American family here,
this is where Vegas, aka the Godfather, shows up at their door and says, "Hey, look, you got this problem. I can help you with it." And then you're just tied in even more to it's like all these mafia movies, and the NBA is the patsy,
Yeah.
or the rich businessman that has to get in bed with the gangsters.
Yeah, that's a good point on our president. On First Take today, Stephen A. Smith made some comments about how he's going to possibly get involved. Not to get political on a sports show, obviously, but our current president, he has his hands involved, in a lot of other things. He likes to do that, and who knows if he chooses to maybe step in or give his opinion. And because obviously this is a federal investigation, it's not like these guys like Ted Rozier wasn't arrested by the Miami local police; they're arrested by the FBI. So that's good. That's another interesting point in all this. Could the president or somebody high up like that in the government step in and get involved and have to start questioning the NBA? And if they start questioning Adam Silver, could this thing get really ugly?
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, Jake, because and Neel, to your point as well, which is also valid. I mean, I think that's a Band-Aid to let's say the mafioso godfathers say, you're in deep, we can make it go away, but eventually you have to think that all of those skeletons will get discovered out of that closet. Right? Yeah, Maddie, you please, Neel. Sorry,
I just said Vegas doesn't forget favors that they do for people.
Yeah,
that's why they say whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah. Speaking of which, wouldn't mind a trip to Vegas one of these days. Anyway, but whatever. But Maddie, we were talking about, you were mentioning your interest in talking about these poker games, and apparently it had something to do with dirty automatic poker dealing machine things and
X-ray glasses,
people who are $1 million in debt,
X-ray
glasses, people who are $1 million in debt, and they got beaten up by the mafia strongmen, and I don't know, fill in the blanks here, and anything else that I missed, but this stuff. Maddie, just go ahead. I don't know.
Okay. So, some of the most messed up stuff I've ever heard in my life. An X-ray table that can look at the cards, even though they're face down, the X-ray table can see what the card is. A fixed shuffler machine that will give certain people the cards and give them a good hand, so that way when a poker game is being played, they have the advantage. And then also X-ray glasses for, I guess they call them the face guards or people who are outside watching the table, to see what was going on. The losers in this whole thing in the poker games were the people who were playing with those NBA players and those involved in the crime families, like the Gambinos. Like this is something that I've never seen before. Now, we mentioned before, Terry Rozier was involved in the NBA scandal. Chauncey Billups was involved in this scandal. Damon Jones was involved in both. So that's one thing I think we need to keep in mind. Damon Jones is probably going to get the worst punishment of the three of them because he was involved in both. Now, I've never in my wildest dreams thought that we'd be using X-ray high-def technology to rig a poker game. Like, this is serious, serious allegations. And I think that if you're Damon Jones, you're thinking to yourself, on all these mafia families, I think if 30 people were arrested just for this. The NBA scandal is I think 6 people were arrested for that, but 30 people arrested for this poker game thing. And poker is a dangerous game. All casino games are dangerous games. And I can only imagine that when you go to a place like Atlantic City or Vegas, they're going to amp up the protection and the integrity to make sure something like this never happens again where machines don't get rigged. Now, one thing I also mentioned to Randy was that to get these rigged shuffler machines, people were held at gunpoint to get the shuffler machines and misplaced them with actual machines at the casinos. So this is a big deal that crimes like holding someone at gunpoint or drugs or this was involved. And that's how people spent those $7 million that were illegally given to these people who were involved. Now, the reason why I'm saying my load here is because, like I said, I'm actually baffled by everything that transpired today. This was the first thing I heard this morning. Same with Jake. So when $7 million is taken away from you, when $1.8 million is taken away from one individual, and the FBI has to step in, you royally messed up, and all these people got caught, and comeuppance has been served.
First of all, to Matt, they've been using X-ray technology to read cards for many years. Haven't you ever seen Austin Powers?
No.
Yeah, well, hey, that's a good point there.
Dr. Evil's henchman number 2 with the eye patch. He's reading cards at the table with his X-ray.
Yeah, but that's a movie.
I think that's where Chauncey got the idea, actually.
And that's a good point. This is literally something out of a movie.
Yeah.
I had never heard the term X-ray table in my life.
Doesn't Google
Yeah.
Google have some sort of glasses where you could do stuff within your spectacles, Neel? I mean,
you know what, man? All I gotta say is I'm not worried as much about the victims' wallets as I am about their sperm counts. Talking about X-ray tables, like I want these guys to be able to have kids someday.
Yeah. I don't know. To your point with everything, just how deep these poker games were and the technology used and who was threatened and so on. And the real reality is that more and more people may be implicated. I mean, to think that it's comes and ends with these 3 individuals, I think would be really foolish.
Yeah.
But here's the better question. If sports gambling perhaps will be rolled back. I was talking about it with Matt, and I want to think that we did talk about the ESPN doc, I'm Just Here for the Riot, in the past.
Yeah, you mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, because it was about the 2011 Stanley Cup final between Vancouver and Boston. Vancouver lost in Game 7. That game was in Vancouver. A massive riot broke out. This was during the early stages of Facebook, and people were posing pictures. They were posting pictures. They were posting of pictures damaging Vancouver buildings and property and so on. And they faced the consequences with their jobs, families, endorsements, and so on. And as sports betting is essentially in its infant stages right now, these people are the sacrificial lambs, not really knowing how intricate and how detailed these investigations can get. So I'm thinking that the Billups and the Roziers and the Damon Jones and Jonte Porters, they're just going to be the reminders for everybody to say, if you try and do something, you're going to get caught, and that this sports gambling is going to continue. Does anybody else think differently?
I would love to get the floor to Jake and Neel, but I got to spill my piece on the question. Unfortunately, gambling, I mentioned it before, is a disease. It's tempting. There's money involved. You want to feel good when you win a bet. When you place a bet, you want to make something to put in your pocket. And ultimately, like I said, they're just going to keep promoting gambling because what's the number one thing that these sports leagues and these businesses thrive on? Money, money, money. Who doesn't love money? And ultimately, this could be a cautionary tale of how to handle yourself responsibly. And actually, I don't know if any of you heard about this, but the NCAA recently approved that Division 1, 2, and 3 students can bet on NCAA games, which is a recipe for disaster when these college kids come to professionals and they're doing this in the pro life. That's just a mess. So the fact that we're encouraging our youth to bet on their craft is a big red flag.
I just need to add something because you sparked what I was actually trying to say. I think I lost my train of thought earlier, talking of getting riled up about like Vegas, but what I was trying to say is that the greed leads to this impurity, and that impurity manifests also as you're bringing in a lot of these like more casual fans, to be honest, because people that haven't necessarily followed the sport now have a reason to just kind of like follow every sport more so. They're putting this little, put that little. And what it does is it brings in these casuals who now are, and especially in the age of social media, giving a lot of trouble to the personal lives of these athletes who are just trying to do their best on the court. Maybe they're not helping these guys as parlays, but they're catching a lot of flack for it. And you hear a lot of the players, even Al Horford today said, the relationship with the fans has changed. They see you as a piece of their ticket, not anymore as a piece of the team that they cheer for. And this because these casual fans are coming in and they don't care as much about the result. Again, these fans have a reason to stick around till the end of a fourth quarter, even if the game is a blowout now, because they're worried about how many points is Al Horford going to score. They're not worried about, a lot of them are. And so this is the impurity that I think is really latching on. And although we don't feel it yet, and again, the last year's NBA playoffs were one of the best ones we've had in a long time, front to back. But I think like I said, the wood is being eroded.
Well, so do you think that the sports gambling is going to scale back, Neel?
No. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill that Adam Silver went dink, and now the thing is just going, and it's not going to stop anymore until it causes it's causing an avalanche, basically.
Sports are too intertwined with sports gambling. This was we all mentioned this was bound to happen. Something just really bad was bound to happen. I don't see how this is going to stop. Hopefully, they'll have another crazy scandal like this. But at this point, I think literally and figuratively, all bets are off.
Pardon the pun.
Yeah, and the NBA and all these other sports leagues, what they'll tell you is if they're questioned about it, and I'm sure that you're going to hear this in the future when they're asked why was this decision made? They're not going to say we want more money to go in our owners' pockets. They're going to say, well, this was already happening in the black market. We're just kind of taking that back and putting regulation to it. We're trying to do the fans. They're going to twist it as if they're doing the fans a favor, but it's all just tomfoolery.
Well, yeah, and here's another question too, because in any scenario, let's say a low-level manager in a big multinational company does something extremely wrong, billions of dollars, and all this insider blah blah blah, and so why does the CEO get blamed for it? If you have hundreds and dare I say thousands of employees, how are you supposed to manage the activity of every single person? And look, I'm not solely, well, I guess I am playing devil's advocate a little bit, but I think that Adam Silver's real problem is the whole games now going over to streaming and him saying that, basketball is a highlight sport. You could just catch all the highlights on YouTube. You're not going to miss anything. I'm paraphrasing or whatever he said there. But I do think that it is unfair to get to throw Silver into the firing line here because of this. There's no way he could have known.
I mean, he couldn't have known maybe specifically that Katarey Rozier was involved, although there has been some rumblings for a year or two now that he was being investigated. Chauncey Billups kind of came out of nowhere. Obviously, Damon Jones isn't a part of the NBA anymore. But the NBA's partners with all the sports betting sites. He had to know something was going to happen. He saw everything with John Porter right in front of his eyes, and he did nothing. So yes, he couldn't have. He can't know what every single individual does. But also the NBA, they have people for this. Carmelo Anthony Hey, this is right around. It was right after John Morant had the gun incident.
Yeah.
They had Carmelo Anthony went on someone's podcast, and he said David Stern, who of course, late great David Stern,
Yeah.
won him silver. Like, I guess when Carmelo was younger, first coming into the league, maybe he was hanging around the wrong people, and Stern might have said something to him, and Carmelo was like, how do you know this? Why are you assuming this? And he was like, he basically told him like, oh, I know who you're hanging out with. I know this. I know that. The NBA's got private investigators. They got detectives. They have all that, okay? So there is no excuse that something like this should happen. On top of the league is kind of a failing product. You mentioned the playoff was good last year, but Matt mentioned the inmates running the asylum, too much player empowerment. Guys signed $300 million deals. They sit out games. They request trades left and right. There's no defense play anymore. The CBA they signed with the second April, I think, is stupid. It's terrible. And now all this corruption comes in. It's just a really, really bad look for the league. Okay,
But I mean, Jake, like how do you think David Stern would handle sports betting and internet betting and all this stuff? Like it wasn't around during his tenure as commissioner. So I mean, not that it's really Adam Silver's fault, but I mean, is it going to be a matter of time before Manfred gets implicated for something that some middle reliever did, and say a coach of a fourth place team, like Gary Bettman, is his nut time up because some NHLer is gonna be implicated on the same thing? You know what I'm getting at here?
I do, and that remains to be seen. Hopefully, there's not another huge scandal in our sports league. But you got to at least look at the commissioner. Like, did you know about this? Like, why did this happen? That question has to be asked. And look, last week I was on the show. I gave my thoughts on Adam Silver. I think he's a stupid bald stooge. But I think he's terrible at his job. I have no respect for him.
Right?
But,
yeah, we got it. Yeah, we remember.
At the end of the day, that question I just mentioned, that has to be asked. I'm not saying it's all his fault. I'm not saying run him out of town, although I would laugh if that happened. Because I mentioned, I think he's a joke. I mean, so the question's got to be asked, and at the very least.
Yeah. And it's a real shame. So many people are losing millions, potentially losing their life because of this, and I think it would be fair to say that more people are going to be in some really serious trouble, not only just in the NBA, but for a lot of professional sports. So, gentlemen, of course, the World Series is on Friday, and there was a lot expected for a lot of different teams. Of course, the two teams left standing are the Toronto Blue Jays and the LA Dodgers. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask Jake and Matt their thoughts of their team. Of course, Jake, the New York Mets made quite a splash with the signing of Juan Soto. They missed out on the playoffs by result of a tiebreaker. I'm sure you have a lot of items on your mind to what happened. Between the offense, the pitching, the coaching. Would love to know if you think the Mets are have a lot of work to do, or did they just get some bad luck with regards to what they could do improve for the 26th season?
The pitching needs to be better. Whenever you have a collapse as colossal as the Mets, you can't really blame it all on luck. Like maybe here or there they got unlucky, but that can't be the complete reason. They were the best team in baseball on June 13th, and then the last, whatever it was, 3.5 months of the season, they were, I think, the fourth worst. That's not all on luck. The pitching was terrible. Like, overall, offensively, they did a good job. Juan Soto had a great year. Pete Alonso was Pete Alonso. Francisco Lindor, for the most part, was Francisco Lindor. And overall, I thought offensively, they did a fine job. Maybe a guy here or there could have stepped Mark Vientos kind of took a step back. Francisco Alvarez didn't really hit till the very end of the season. He had a lot of injuries this year. But a guy like Jeff McNeil was pretty good. And overall, offensively, Brandon Nimmo had a very good season as well. Offensively, they did enough to where the pitching gave them anything. They would have at least been in the playoffs. To be honest, I didn't expect them to win a World Series this year. First of all, you got to go through the Dodgers. That was going to be hard for anybody. I was hoping something similar to last year in terms of how the season ended. Maybe you lose a hard-fought series to the Dodgers or somebody else, whoever emerged this year. But I just don't understand why you thought Kobay Senga, who didn't pitch last year because he was hurt, like really at all. He was not brought to the Mets to be an ace, to be your ace, and behind him, you convert Clay Holmes to a starter. Granted, he didn't pitch bad. Then David Peterson, who had one good season after being a bad pitcher for 4 or 5 years. And then Griffin Canning, who was historically a bad pitcher. Tyler McGill's not a very good pitcher. And just this slew of arms. Shomanaya, who was very good the year prior, but before that wasn't very good. Just this collection of mediocrity. Why you thought this was going to work, I have no idea. And just as a result, their starters couldn't get through 4 innings. So now their bullpen gets depleted, which leads to guys like Max Kranick and Daniel Nunez all getting hurt. And just, and the GM Stearns did a terrible job. Bringing in pitching before the season, in the middle of the season. He could have went out and got a starting pitcher. He didn't do it. He tried to bring in some relief pitcher. He brought in Tyler Rogers, who was just okay. Brought in Gregory Soto, who was terrible. He brought in Ryan Helsley, who was terrible. And then, game 162 needed to win to get in and the Reds to lose. And the Reds lost. And then all they can do was beat the Marlins, who aren't a very good team.
Yep.
And they didn't do it. And, they did basically a bullpen game. They started Shomanaya. They had no other, legit starters. Their best starting pitcher was Noah McClain, and he made 8 starts. He didn't get called up until August. He was a prospect. He was a minor leaguer most of the year. I think he's 22 or 24 years old. And, them doing a bullpen game in the last game of the season and a do or die game, that's kind of how the season went. And it really is a shame. And the Mets do have a lot of work to do because they have to completely revamp their pitching staff. They're going to have to get one really good high-level arm in the rotation. They're going to have to bring in 1 or 2 more good starters. The bullpen needs a lot of work. And there is a lot of work to be done. And I blame the pitching for the most part, for sure.
Randy, I think you muted.
Damn. Was going to ask you, Jake, do you think Mendoza sees next season?
Yes, they already announced that he is coming back, which I don't mind. I know a lot of people have gotten on him, and certain things I've gotten on him as well this season, but he also took a team that I thought was going to be really bad to the National League Championship Series the year prior. He was given a really bad pitching staff. I know he kind of got, I guess, the Aaron Boone syndrome, which is kind of ironic because he came from the Yankees of pulling starting pitchers too early. But also when he only has 1 or 2 legit starters, at some point it's not all on him. Obviously, if something like this happens next year, they'll have to make a change. But I think he deserves a chance to, all right, maybe, fix the staff, because I do think he didn't have a great staff around him, which is his fault because he picked it. But give him one more chance to fix his staff. Give the Mets one more chance to try and fix this mess. But I didn't harp on him as much. But yeah, he is going to come back next year.
Well, do you think Steve Cohen has the patience to actually let this thing evolve? Or is he going to have an itchy trigger finger? And you tell me, is he going to be like a Jerry Jones and just immediately demand the keys to the bus here?
I don't think he's going to do that. He's not that kind of guy. He never has been ever since he bought the team. He's been, for example, when in the 2023 season, when the Mets were floundering, everyone was clamoring for them to fire Buck Showalter. And at one point, he just did a press conference, and he just said, "You know what? This has been terrible." But he said, "I'm not going to fire Buck Showalter." He had to fire. Obviously, he went after the year. He's like, "Right now, I'm not going to make a in-season change." And he mentioned that, if you fire, coaches and GMs, just every season, now you become a guy who no one really wants to work with because there's not a lot of patience. So he's not really that kind of guy. However, if the Mets start out really bad next year, I could see him being like I can't keep doing this. There's too much talent on this team. I've spent too much money to be a bad team. So if they start out bad, like if May comes to an end and they're in 4th place, I could see him possibly looking at the manager and being like, all right, enough. But unless that happens, I don't think he'll panic.
Matty, what about your... Sorry, please, Jake.
I was just saying I think he'll give it the full season.
Okay. Matty, in case you didn't catch last week's episode with Jake, he does believe that Aaron Boone will be back as manager. Beyond that, I know what your thoughts are on Boone as you are bashing your head on your laptop, which is really fun. I guess, no, you're not muted. I guess you're just not actually hitting the surface, but
No.
So Matty, same question to you, my friend. What was it about the Yankees not advancing after the ALDS?
Well, we faced your team, so I'm going to try and not be biased here. But anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I'm trying to be
anyway,
as impartial as possible. But yeah.
This is the first postseason where Aaron Judge actually put the team on his back and actually did well.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Number two, we couldn't back him up. Giancarlo Stanton was almost non-existent. Cody Bellinger stunk. Anthony Volpe went, I think, struck out 11 in his final 13 at bats, which is pathetic to say the least. The pitching did okay for the most part, I guess you could say. The Boston series. I remember the last time I was on an episode. It was the game 1 of the Boston series in the wild card, and I thought we were toast by then. But thank God for people like Cam Schlittler who drinks that dirty water. And I think the Yankees, they're going to be the same team next year. And now Cody Bellinger is testing the market, which sucks. And the problem with that is I don't know if he's going to want to come back. I know he's testing the waters, but if the Yankees don't bring him back, we're putting Jason Dominguez in at left, who still has some defensive issues. And Aaron Boone, don't even get me started with this guy. I've had enough of this guy for the last, basically ever since 2022, I've had enough with this guy. But he's just not it. But the problem is, unless Joe Girardi decides to come out of retirement and say, Boone, get the hell out of my spot, this is how it's going to be the rest of the time.
But why would Joe Girardi be the saving grace? I mean, it was only one World Series with him.
Yeah, but he installed integrity and he held players accountable. Anthony Volpe strikes out 11 times in 13 at-bats, and this is our shortstop for the Yankees. I don't care if you proposed to your girlfriend yesterday. You got to play better.
Oh, really? Good for him. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
but
good for him, yeah.
But who would have replaced Volpe though, Matty? I mean,
Jose Caballero.
Okay, so and all of Yankees fans think that he would have been significantly better than Volpe. I guess, forgive me, I don't know the Yankees roster beyond the starting 9, but I guess that's the situation, that a lot of managers face, right? John Schneider was getting massacred for when he pulled Savage. And, I wasn't too impressed about it either. But then I was listening to Steve Phillips here in Toronto on TSN Radio here in Toronto. Phillips made a great point saying, look, this is Savage's, 6th start in the big leagues.
Yes.
And you want to let this guy ride it out even more? I mean, he has done yeoman's work and is pitching out of his mind. I think he's an inch close of already getting elected into the Hall of Fame. I'm kidding, of course.
Oh my God.
But the reality is that, you have put this kid through so much stress. Schneider yanks him, and the fans, myself included, was like, what the hell are you doing? But you want to preserve this guy as much as you can, and this guy is and I'm going on and on here, but with regards to Boone, I guess the question is, does he actually have the pieces to, like Joe Girardi did have?
Like both those guys have one thing in common. They both at some point in their managerial careers managed Aaron Judge. But other than Judge, you got to bet and hope that everyone else around you is good. I mean, I love Jazz. Jazz was great, but even he was non-existent for most of the postseason. And I think that Ben Rice is good, but again, almost non-existent. Like, it just stinks because finally Judge plays well in the playoffs, his biggest problem of his career so far, and no one helps him. We don't assist him. And that was the worst part of it all. And Anthony Volpe striking out on low cheese on his 13th at bat out of 11, I thought was like a big joke. And you mentioned preserving your rookies. Anthony Volpe had his heyday in his rookie year. He won a Golden Glove in 2023. It's 2025. We expect more from you at this point. And we're not grooming this guy to be the next Derek Jeter, although we've had shortstop problems over the last decade since Jeter retired. It's just like one of those things where it's like, you put so much pressure on a kid, you hope they excel. And it's like, I've seen you perform well, Anthony. I've seen you perform. Why can't you just go back to what you were in the past? I mean, I get it. 2025 was a bad year, but like, come on. When the lights shine bright, don't strike out like a wuss on a low and away pitch and just get the fans booing at you. Like, it's just embarrassing. And like I said, Stanton didn't come through. Bellinger didn't come through. Like, most people didn't come through. Goldie's gone after this year because we signed him to a 1-year deal. So now we got probably find a new first baseman. It's probably going to be Ben Rice for all we know. But it's just mind-boggling. The Yankees just can't catch a break no matter what. And it's amazing. I sang New York, New York by Frank Sinatra. I ran a beer mile. I did everything I could to get some good juju for this team. And
yeah, I remember you did that, Maddie. I was like, oh, dude, that sucks.
But yeah, my one comment that I'll make on the Yankees, it was alarming from my perspective, because the Yankees, they led the league in home runs in the regular season. They were great offensively in the regular season. I was more concerned about the pitching. The rotation, like Matt mentioned, it actually wasn't that bad. I mean, the guy that they paid $280 million, Max Fried, in the DS was terrible, but Schnittler was really good. That guy pitched his ass off. He was just untouchable.
Yes.
In Boston, and against Toronto, he pitched very well. Also, in fact, I would have probably given him one more batter in that game. Or certainly would have given Fried another batter or two against Boston. But that's at this point that means nothing. But just they led the league in home runs in the regular season. They were so good offensively in the regular season. It wasn't just Judge. Obviously, Aaron Judge was their best hitter. He's MVP finalist this year. But Stanton was hurt for half the year. But when he was healthy, he had like a 920 OPS. Grisham had 34 home runs.
Yeah.
30-30. Always, like, even Austin Wells, who only didn't hit for a high average, he hit like 20 home runs. Even Anthony Volpe, I think, had like 18 or 20 home runs. And he was
like 19 or something.
Yeah, 19 pops. Like that. Like, I don't understand. And Tony Bellinger had a great season.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what the question is, Jake. I mean, Matty, does the Yankees have a lot of work to do in the offseason?
Well, you know how they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and hoping for a different result?
Sure.
If this Yankee team just plays conservative throughout the offseason and does absolutely nothing, then they're going to get the same thing. They're going to have an exit in the playoffs in like the first or second round. What they need to do, and I've heard rumblings about Bryce Harper potentially getting traded by the Phillies. Whether that happens is beyond me. But that's a guy that you could probably try to entice to come to the Bronx. He's even said that he's been a Yankee fan his whole life. But then again, everyone says that. But it's just like one of those things where it's like, try to go bold, be bold, do something that people are gonna pat you on the back for. Like I said, 2024, that was Juan Soto. This past year, you got Cody, but now he's testing the waters. So now you got to start from scratch again and try to get another massive profile signing. And if it's Bryce Harper, hell, go for it.
Oh God, seeing Bryce Harper in a Yankee
There
uniform.
is
Give me
a
a
Europe chance.
break.
There's a better chance I will be a Yankee next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Bryce is happy in Philly.
Dombrowski already said that not going to trade him. No chance. There's a better chance. Bryce Harper will go to the moon before he plays for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night on that one.
Neel, it would have been really easy to ask where you were when George Springer hit the home run, or when Jeff Hoffman struck out J-Rod and the Jays clinched the pennant. I mean, hey, the two of us, we were on top of the world, and yeah, nobody cares. But but what I was wondering, Neel, of course, you are a couple years younger than me, and when in 92 and 93, I would have been 14 in 93. And we didn't see a massive explosion in terms of baseball and like the influx of Canadians. I mean, we did to a degree, and yeah, sure, baseball rosters are so much bigger than basketball, but I think, like the Toronto Raptors, the Blue Jays won their World Series at a pretty bad time, because 93, they won the World Series. 94, the strike happened. 2019, the Raptors win the NBA championship. 2020, COVID happens. So it's going to be funny if the Jays win the World Series this year. What the hell is going to happen next season?
Don't even tell me that.
Yeah. But with regards to Canada's growth, Neel, for this game of baseball, do you think we're going to see a spike? I don't know, but as I am starting to think about it now, I really wonder if the U.S. is going to take over in hockey, and I do wonder if Canadians are going to focus on the basketballs, the soccers, and with the Jay success, even baseball.
I mean, I think that anytime you have a run like this, and frankly, it's been a magical run because it's had all the elements. You never were expected to be here. You came in as the last place team last year. You had your manager and your front office on the hot seat. You gave this huge contract to Vladdy, and everyone was sort of like, "Oh man, what did we do here?" Mm-hmm. So everything was, and then we had a bad start to the season where 50 games in, it wasn't looking so hot. And so when that all has transpired, and then you get to this point, those kind of runs, I believe, have a more of like a magical effect on the city and the fan base that they're in. So I do think that the Jays, regardless of whether they win or lose, will carry that to a degree. Obviously, it'll be longer if they win, especially taking out a juggernaut like the Dodgers. But when it comes to the other sports, particularly here in Toronto, the Jays are never going to equal the Maple Leafs. And I don't think they're ever going to catch up to the Raptors because, and I don't mean to sound harsh because I know that this is not the case in other cities, but I do believe that the Blue Jays have a much larger casual fan component of their overall fandom than do the Raptors or the Maple Leafs. And I can mostly speak to the Raptors, but when you go to see Raptor games nowadays, the effect that you'll see is that even when the team is bad, the support is there. People are in the seats. They're cheering. They're getting live. I don't know that you've seen that in Toronto when the team hasn't been good. And the team does their best.
For the Jays, you're talking about
the Jays.
For the Jays, yeah, okay.
For the Jays, the support is not there when the team's bad. And how do you measure dieheartedness or real fandom? Is how many people are showing up when it's not going so great? Because it's easy to show up. All these people are suddenly Blue Jays fans now, but in a few years, when if we're last place again in the AL East. Or rather AL
East, yeah.
And then what's it going to look like then? And I believe that measure is a true kind of marker on how you can judge a fan base. And I don't think that the Jays fan base is as, let's just say, diehard from a support standpoint than are the Maple Leafs or Raptors. But I do think that the city is getting unbelievable support at this time right now. And obviously,
Yeah.
there's a huge component of diehard Jays fans as well. What
Sure.
I'm just saying is that there's a larger component of casual fans than to the other sports, but they have their diehards too. I do think it's going to grow the game though in Canada, but not to the effect that Vince Carter and the Raptors championship had on the culture in Canada. No.
Well, it's so funny you say that, Neil, because how many people, and Matt and Jake could probably answer this one better. How many people were really captivated in America after Vladdy and David Ortiz did the whole Yankees lose thing?
So hilarious.
Maddie, I'm sorry, bro, but I'm just making a point. Hang in there, okay?
I have watched that clip probably 4,000 times. I literally I Googled it on YouTube, screen recorded it. I used it in a podcast segment. And then after I was done editing my podcast, I didn't erase the Premiere Pro thing. I went back in. I clipped out just the Vlad saying it. I have it saved on my computer, and I even created my own. Yankees lose. Hilarious.
But
Tell me,
I don't know,
Bill.
Matt. Yeah, but Neil, the like Vince Carter's rise to prominence came after the 2000 All-Star game. I think we could both agree to that. And who's to say that Vladdy's didn't start with that interview with David Ortiz? And of course, he has to have a lot more consistency, success behind the plate, and a couple Gold Gloves, MVPs wouldn't hurt either. But this could be the starting point, let alone the fact of the Jays potentially winning a World Series.
No, know what? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, please go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just struck by your point that Vladdy. You bring up Vladdy, and even Springer, but the difference is Springer is on the last of his legs, and
right. Yeah.
Vladdy's on the start of his legs. So yeah, and Vladdy. I mean, you saw it in that interview. His interactions with Ortiz, his born ready comments, the way he looks around the stadium and soaks it all in, and the fact that he was born or at least raised to a degree in Toronto or in Canada rather. And has that sort of somewhat of a citizenship. He's a Canadian citizen, isn't he?
He's a Canadian. He was born in Montreal, yeah.
Yeah. And so that does give us that superstar appeal because he is absolutely a top-level elite superstar in the last month. And frankly, for a lot of this year, it's just that what he did
was rather ho-hum.
What he did well during the season was efficiency, not power. But now he's doing both. Right. And he's doing it with such verve and such swag that, I mean, you could talk about Ohtani's greatest game of all time all you want. Vladdy's been the best player in this whole playoffs, any team by far. Okay? And that's it. There's no argument. So, yes, you have that type of guy. I think that is a huge component to building the fan base. Just like Vince Carter, in a way, I do see some similarities there. I got to be honest, it's good to have a superstar that's coming through like this at this time. It's something we've been lacking.
And if Bo Bichette resigns here, and what's going to happen? Like, is Trey Savage going to continue with the incredible success that he has? That's a lot to ask for a guy who has just recently been able to buy a beer in the U.S. I mean, what's Kevin Gausman going to be?
The youngest pitcher tomorrow left standing is going against the best pitcher left standing because Blake Snell, I think, has been the best pitcher in the playoffs so far.
I agree.
And so that's going to be a fascinating matchup. It's a tough one for Toronto, but hey, man, if anyone can do it, it's our lineup. We don't strike out very much, and we just wear pitchers down, and that's what we do.
And it is quite interesting to see. Well, Neil, I guess maybe we saw it with the Raptors when they played the Warriors in the NBA Finals, was how much support the Toronto team is getting for those living south of the border. Jake, I guess the better question is it because it's the Dodgers again, this super team that has made the World Series for the second year in a row? How despised really are the Dodgers? And I guess I could just leave it there.
Yeah, the Dodgers being the opposition has a lot to do with why Toronto is
Sure, of course.
become America's team, so to speak. It's kind of ironic because they're America. America's team because the Dodgers are not well liked. I personally don't really have a problem with the Dodgers. I don't have a problem with how they spend money. I don't have a problem with how they do business. In fact, I wish my team did stuff similar to them. It clearly works. They're the premier franchise.
Well, not being condescending at all. I mean, to a degree, that's what's happening, right? With Soto signing, sure.
But yeah. So I don't have a problem with them. Do I like them? No, I don't like them. Obviously, if the Mets play them, I want the Mets to beat them. I'm not rooting for the Dodgers in the World Series. But I do think a lot of people have a certain hatred towards the Dodgers. That's just a fact. They speak for themselves. I speak for myself. But the Dodgers being the opposition is a big reason why the Blue Jays kind of become America's team. They're very, very ironically in this World Series.
It does take a very special team to be so revered from coast to coast when you made the championship series the year before. And, Maddie, I didn't get a chance to take a look at what the television numbers were like all those years ago when the Subway Series took place between the Mets and the Yankees.
Right.
What was it, 2000? It was the Subway Series. And obviously, New York versus New York has so much intrigue. Even in my neck of the woods and Neel's neck of the woods. But I could understand if those on the West Coast may not have been too interested because they didn't have a local, quote unquote, local team nearby or somewhat of a horse in the race. What would have happened if San Francisco and Angels when they played, what was that, 2003, 2002?
2002, yeah.
I could appreciate that the East Coast wasn't too thrilled about that World Series. You have to think that even though Toronto is not in the U.S., that Major League Baseball more so dodged a bullet with not having Seattle against L.A., or do you think that they would rather have Seattle over Toronto?
So that's a good question. I honestly, and you know this because you were on Foursquare Sports when I picked the Mariners to win. The Mariners are still the only team in baseball that have not made the World Series yet. And I think a lot of people were clamoring for that. But Toronto, I'm all for them being in the World Series just because I'll take anyone and anybody to beat the Dodgers for $5,000. I just want to see the Dodgers fall. And here's why I think America wants the Blue Jays to win. If the Dodgers win their second consecutive World Series, Major League Baseball is in a lot, and I mean in a lot of trouble because of the CBA coming up in 2027, the way the Dodgers with the deferred payments and how they're getting all these high-profile free agents. They're targeting Kyle Tucker all as we speak. It's just like if they get Kyle Tucker, they're going to win a third straight World Series if in fact they do win this one. But the last thing the Major League wants is to have a team that's just deferring payments for major stars to win championships. Because to me, it's not ethically right to do that. And even though it's technically not illegal, it's not exactly,